Star Wars, we've got more Star Wars, there's another Star Wars to talk about. Hey everybody, welcome to Screen Rant. It's given us plenty to talk about lately, and regardless of how you might feel about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, it's still a pretty big deal that The Rise of Skywalker is finally out and officially bringing a close to the Skywalker Saga that began 42 long years ago.
Have you even seen Star Wars?
Episode 9 is almost 2.5 hours of unadulterated fan service, which may be a good or bad thing depending on your viewpoint, but as you might expect, it comes with a ton of callbacks to the existing Star Wars universe. Now, I'd like to say that we caught everything, but that might not be possible until the movie comes out on home video, so please be nice in the comments, alright? The movie's got some awesome mentions and some cool surprises, and everything from here on out will be nothing but spoilers. So, if you're like me and wouldn't want the last Star Wars movie ruined for you, this is your last chance to split before I do any lasting damage. And with that, I'm Greg Elliott, and here is every Star Wars Easter egg and reference in The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, let's start with characters. Naya Nunba from Return of the Jedi shows up during the Resistance meeting, as does Aftab Akbar, the son of Admiral Akbar, and he flies a B-Wing, which is a nod to Legends, and he's also voiced by the film's co-screenwriter Chris Terrio. Lin-Manuel Miranda makes a cameo as a Resistance fighter, Ed Sheeran plays a stormtrooper somewhere in the film, and director J.J. Abrams provided the voice of D.O. Resistance fighter Snap Wexley from The Force Awakens also returned and then died, which is sad because his mentor Wedge Antilles from A New Hope made a surprise appearance during the final battle.
Look at the size of that thing.
We get a brief shot of a Clone Wars battle droid behind 3PO in Babu Freak's shop. We see what looks to be copies of Snoke and cloning vats on Exegol, and there's a blink and you'll miss it shot of a statue behind Kylo Ren of what appears to be Darth Nihilus, one of the main villains from the Knights of the Old Republic 2 video game. We see a few Porgs on Ahch-To, Wicket makes a brief return on Endor near the end of the film, once again played by Warwick Davis, and Star Wars' composer himself, John Williams, even makes a brief cameo on Kijimi as the bartender Oma Trace, which is, by the way, an anagram for Maestro. And then there's all the Jedi that Rey hears the voices of. In addition to Luke, we hear the voices of Anakin, Yoda, Qui-Gon Jinn, Mace Windu, both young and old versions of Obi-Wan, as well as several Jedi from the animated shows, Ahsoka Tano, Aayla Secura, Adi Gallia, Kanan Jarrus, and Luminara Unduli, all voiced by their actors from the shows, which is pretty damn cool. And now let's talk about some starships. Luke's X-Wing, briefly seen in The Last Jedi, makes its triumphant return when Luke lifts it out of the water on Ahch-To like Yoda did on Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back. But you gotta wonder how that thing could possibly work after years underwater. And when Rey sends the Resistance the coordinates to Exegol, Luke's old call sign Red 5 is what they see.
Red 5 standing by.
And then there's the Resistance fleet at the end of the film. In addition to the Falcon getting its circular sensor dish back, we also saw a modified VCX-100 light freighter, which might even be the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels, as well as the Crucible from the Clone Wars and Shadowcaster from Rebels. What's possibly the Eravana from The Force Awakens is there, as well as the Outrider from A New Hope Special Edition, the Colossus from Star Wars Resistance, a Lucrehulk droid control ship from The Phantom Menace, and a Pelta-class frigate and several Consular-class cruisers and Venator-class Star Destroyers, which date back to the Clone Wars. Okay, and now let's get into the real nitty-gritty. The movie's opening crawl reveals that Palpatine has just announced his return, and it seems like that message was reserved for Fortnite players, who got to see an exclusive clip from the film a few days early with a message from the Emperor himself.
The day of victory is at hand. The day of revenge. The day of the Sith.
Kylo's search for Palpatine begins on Mustafar, the fiery planet that Anakin nearly got burnt to death on in Revenge of the Sith, and afterwards made his home. The Emperor's throne on Exegol is based off of Ralph McQuarrie's original sketches that he did for Return of the Jedi, and the temple itself is also highly reminiscent of the Sith Temple on Malachor from Star Wars Rebels. The movie doesn't fully explain how Palpatine came back from the dead, and the Emperor's only explanation is that the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider unnatural, which is a direct quote from Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine tells Anakin about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. And at the very end of the movie, Palpatine drains the life force from both Rey and Kylo, mentioning that the power of 2 is vital to restoring him, which is totally a nod to the Sith rule of 2, which states that no more than 2 Sith Lords can exist at the same time.
Always 2 there are, a master and an apprentice.
Okay, enough about the Emperor, let's talk about the good guys. Rey's story picks up with her training under Leia, which is very similar to Luke's training in A New Hope, complete with a blast-shielded helmet and a training remote. Rey also experiences some Force visions, like her parents leaving her on Jakku and Luke's confrontation with Vader in the original trilogy. And when she picks up the Sith dagger for the first time, she appears to exhibit the little-known ability of psychometry, or sense echo, which features prominently in the Jedi Fallen Order video game and allows a Jedi to sense an object's past when they touch it. And she also deflects Force lightning to destroy Palpatine, the same trick that Mace Windu used in Revenge of the Sith. And this was funny. When Rey throws Luke's lightsaber into the fire on Ahch-To, Luke's ghost catches it and tells her to treat it with more respect, which is a cute little callback to The Last Jedi where he casually just threw the thing over his shoulder. Lando Calrissian made his big return in the film, and when he shows up for the first time, he's wearing a helmet to hide his face, just like how he appeared in Return of the Jedi. And it wouldn't be Star Wars without lots of dialogue that calls back to earlier movies. Lando says he's got a bad feeling about this on Pisana, which is a line that's been used in pretty much every Star Wars movie, and he also refers to Chewie as Old Buddy, paralleling his dialogue with Han in Return of the Jedi.
Come on, Han, old buddy, don't let me down.
3PO even gets in some familiar ones like "This is madness" and "We're doomed," and Poe talks to him about the odds similarly to how Han told him to never tell me the odds in The Empire Strikes Back. And speaking of Empire, when Kylo tells Rey that Palpatine is her grandfather, he tells her to search your memories, which sounds a lot like Vader's "search your feelings" line to Luke. And even a stormtrooper repeats a line straight out of A New Hope when going door to door, saying "Door's locked, move to the next one." Kylo gets in a "where is she?" just like Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, and Palpatine of course gets in a "good," while also saying only you have the power to save them, just like he told Anakin that only he had the power to save Padme. And the biggest ones come from the scene with Han and Kylo. One is lifted straight from their scene in The Force Awakens, where Kylo says, "I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it," and that scene ends with Ben trying to tell his dad that he loves him, with Han replying with his trademark "I know," straight out of The Empire Strikes Back. And here's some other stuff in no particular order. The Rise of Skywalker features plenty of Force healing, which was common in the old expanded universe, but was just reintroduced into Star Wars canon with Baby Yoda healing grief in Chapter 7 of The Mandalorian. We also see Finn and Poe playing Chewie in Dedrick, or Hollow Chess, which is where we also confirm Chewie's age at 250. Oh, and Chewie also finally got that medal that they never gave him in A New Hope. Kylo uses a Force choke on a First Order Admiral, also slamming him into the ceiling, and Rey uses the Force to pull down the transport ship similarly to how Starkiller pulls down an Imperial Star Destroyer in the Force Unleashed video game. And the Holdo maneuver that took down Snoke's ship in The Last Jedi, well, we don't see it again, but that's because it's explained as being a 1 in a million chance, which is why it was never used before and is unlikely to ever be used again. The movie ends with the story coming full circle as Rey heads back to the Lars homestead on Tatooine where Luke grew up. We see a Jawa sand cruiser, and Rey slides down on the sand just like she did on Jakku in The Force Awakens. And her yellow lightsaber, well, those are rare, but have been seen before a few times, including briefly in the Clone Wars. And to close it out with a nice reference to the original film, the Aki-Aki Festival of the Ancestors that takes place on Pisana, well, not only is the celebration music playing the same as what's on Endor and Return of the Jedi, they say that it takes place every 42 years, which just so happens to be exactly how long ago the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. And I think that's it, guys. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this much longer than normal video, and please let us know in the comments if we happen to miss anything. Keep coming back to Screen Rant for more Star Wars talk. I'm Greg Elliott, and may the Force be with you always.